G'day! My name's Bev Eagy and I'm the proprietor of the Anzac Tea Parlor. And today we're going to make scones. They say scone in Australia instead of scone. And actually in England and Scotland and Ireland it's scone, but in America it's scone. So if you're thinking she can't even say it, it's because I lived in Australia 20 years and we used to go to all the country race meetings, and the best scones I ever tasted in my life were from the Country Women Association. There's these group of country women that would make scones and they'd sell them in the little kiosks and things, and they were so good. And I'd pick their brains. I'd say, you know, give me the recipe, and they had all these little tricks. And it wasn't until I moved back to America, like 20 years later, I found this recipe, and it's seriously, it tastes just like those country women made it. It's the best cream scone you've ever tasted. This recipe is just your regular, makes 12 scones. We usually double it. I would never recommend going any more than doubling a recipe, because sometimes the math doesn't work out. It's just trust me, it's better just to only double if you're going to do that. But it doubles quite nicely. You can sift it with just an old-fashioned sifter. I just like to throw everything through a sieve. I'm putting together the dry first, and this is a pastry flour, but you can use all-purpose flour, and I'm just going to put it all in here. So there's 2 cups of flour. I'm going to put the sugar in next. It calls for castor sugar in Australia, and castor sugar is just an ultra-fine sugar. It's just, regular sugar will be fine, will work okay. You can actually get castor sugar in America. It's usually called baker's sugar or superfine or ultrafine or something. So that's all it is. It's nothing too mysterious. And I've got, I think one of the secrets to this is it actually calls for a lot. It's a tablespoon of baking powder. And usually in recipes it's a lot less. So I think this is one of the secrets, besides all the cream and butter. So there's a tablespoon of the baking powder, and get a double acting, get a good one. Whenever you're getting ingredients, like with my flour, I get flour that's made here in Oregon. I get all the freshest ingredients. That's like the secret to something tasting really good. I usually just do pinches, but with baking sometimes you want to be precise. It's 1/4 of a teaspoon, which is really just like a big pinch, but I'm just going to measure it. And I pretty much use kosher salt. I just like it. I like the way it tastes on your tongue. So, but you can use any kind of salt. That's the dry, and I'm just going to sift it in here. And if it's taking too long, you can move your hands around. Just don't skin your knuckles. So it gives you a whole nother flavor. But you want it nice and airy and light. And this seriously just melts on your tongue. This scone. The first time I ever made it, a girlfriend of mine from Eastern Oregon stopped by, and I was getting a new scone recipe. I just discovered it, and I was going to teach it at the college. And I made her tea on the veranda, our front veranda, and she tasted it. She goes, "Couldn't you teach them a lesser scone? It's that delicious, like you don't want to." But I do share this recipe. Part of the wet will be this butter, and the secret to putting your butter in your scone is to have it really cold. If you let it get room temperature, it won't work as well, because it's just something about, just trust me on that one. And it's 1/3 cup, but we go a little bit more. I always go a little more generous with that, so I'm going to go about a tablespoon. If you get a cube of butter that has the little guide on it, it's easy. Or I weigh most things. That's a good way with baking, if you can get used to weighing. Just cut this butter into little pieces. Oops, got a piece of tea on there. Don't want that. I'm just going to cut these into chunks and put it all in, and then I'm just going to cut it with the pastry cutter. Okay, so then you cut your butter in. You want it just to look crumbly, so I get to a certain point, then I go in like one of the country women from Australia, and you just smash it with your fingers, just work it in with the thumb, and you get a nice little crumbly, like a cornmeal or something effect. So this is pretty much there. Now I make a sort of a well here, and then heavy cream. I mean, you can get whipping cream, it'd be okay, but I try to get a cream that's at least 40% fat. And if, you know, I think that's another reason that the scones are so good in Australia, because these country women, they get the cream right there. I mean, someone's cow. It's just that fresh. So it's great living here in the Dalles because we have a lot of good farmers and produce and things, and you can do that. So whenever you can use fresh and local, do it. It makes you look like a genius when they taste your food. Right here, I'm going to put some zest in. Now this is a point. If you want to take, you can take this recipe and go anywhere with it. Just whatever's fresh. If there's blueberries or, you know, even in the winter we use a lot of dried cherries. We put dark chocolate and white chocolate together. You can take this cream scone recipe and just add anything. You just do like a half a cup of. But for the plain scone, I think it's really nice just to have a little bit of zest. When you're zesting your lemon, now you could do any citrus. Orange is really nice as well. Try not to go past, if you go into the white part too far, it's a little bitter. You just want to get the yellow. And I think it's just a teaspoon of zest, but if you want to have it like a lemon, more lemon flavor, I'd go for it. I'm going to call that a teaspoon. And save your lemon, because you can use that for lemon curd. So I'm just going to mix the cream in here. And it gets... Now, the beauty of this scone recipe is it is so good, just the ingredients. This is where people say, oh, don't overwork your scone. Just barely, like, you know, 2 or 3 rolls and done, or it'll get, the gluten will go crazy. You could knead the daylights out of this. It will still be a good scone. This is going to go into a plastic bag and go in the fridge. This is where you don't panic, because it'll look really, it'll pull together, it'll be great. It just wants to rest. It wants to go into a fridge. Okay, here we go. I've rolled the scones out, and now a little secret, you know, you've got your flour, so it won't stick. When you're rolling, you want it to be even. Go both ways. It gives you a nice level top. You want the sides just as big as you want it fairly even. In America, your scones usually are like a big triangle, and you can do that shape with this. You just do a round and then just cut it like a pie. But in Australia, in England, and Scotland, they do scones in little rounds. If you want it to not stick to your cutter, you do this. I'm going to bring a tray over, and we'll just pop them in. And when your dough's nice and firm, it doesn't, when you drop them out, they won't get a big fingerprint. If it was soft, you'd have a big dent at the top. Okay. Now to top it, if you want something to brown when you're baking, you can, you know, if you want it shiny, you can do like egg whites. If you're doing like a puff pastry or something, you do different washes. You can do like egg yolk with a little bit of water, and that makes a beautiful browning. But because there's so much cream, and this whole thing is about cream and butter and yum, and you have heavy cream there, I always just use heavy cream. And so when I'm topping my scones, this is topping them just to have a nice brown, old-fashioned finish. I use one of these silicone brushes. I used to use the bristle kind, but it's just not a good look when the bristles come off, and they will. They won't with these little guys. And then it's like, whoa, it looks like a hair. You don't want that look. So get one of those little silicone brushes, and I top it with some sugar. Now you can do your white sugar or your castor sugar, but I kind of like using raw sugar. It gives you a nice rustic look. It just looks like Grandma made it. A grandma that lived in the country in the farm. So that's, I mean, I can make at least a dozen with this. The temperature of your oven's 375, and make sure it's right to temperature. It's never a good thing to not have it hot enough when you put it in. In Australia, what they do with a scone, they cut it in half. Oops, I didn't cut that very well, but anyway, you get the picture. And they get a dollop of Devonshire cream. Now this cream is heavy cream that's just been whipped. I put a little bit of confectioner's sugar and a really good vanilla. Never skimp on your vanilla. Get the best you can afford. I'm going to put a little orange marmalade on top. Oh my gosh. Okay. Now this is just a little bit of heaven. Oh yeah. It's delicious. This is loving from the oven. This is as good as it gets. You can save your airfare to Australia. This is as good as it would be if you went to a country race meeting in New South Wales and the Country Women Association made your scones. This is better.